Okay, so welcome everybody. Thanks for taking time out of your day and wherever you're at, whatever time you're at, I appreciate it. So let's get started. Lucy, if you could go to the next slide. So body patterns have always been driven by shape, mass, and of course your stature and stance. Typically in 3D design, this is often overlooked, and it's something that I always carry over from classic pattern drafting methods. And of course, you can see here, we've got various different types of statures and stances, postures to evaluate. And typically in body scans, this is also overlooked because we have modeling companies putting new heads or necks onto figures, and we actually need the neck data. Also, the ankle and foot is generally replaced, and we also typically need some of that data in order to configure things like bow-leggedness, as you see a little bit in the scoliosis figure. We have knock knee happening as a result of posture. So everything from the neck down in the body is actually going to impact your pattern. Lucy, next slide. Right here, I chose to use an in-program figure versus one of my own, just to show you how that in-program figure works within three-dimensional design. So on one side, we have a regular posture for a 44 regular male figure. And then on the right-hand side, we have the 44 regular sway back posture, which is generally seen more in younger, more athletic figures. But it's a very specific posture that will extend the length of the front of the body, shorten the length of the back of the body, or sometimes also lengthen the back of the body, depending on the degree of sway back the person has, whereas the regular posture has more of a balance in the front and the back of the body. And these are the areas that we consider when we're looking at posture. So I also divert from using a plumb line from ear to ankle that's straight up and down, because I believe that the plumb line is not accurate to the posture line, in which case it will actually affect your end output of fit in pattern. Lucy, next slide. So let's begin with the block or the sloper, which is the essential foundation of your fit. Anything you make in a block or sloper is going to carry over from the actual body measurements into every style that you make. So if your blocks and slopers are made incorrectly, of course, you're going to have incorrect fit. So on this, we've done it on the regular stature stance, and I've utilized the measuring lines within the body to start that block. As you can see, I have the across chest line matching the across chest line. The chest line matches the chest line, and of course the waistline matches the waistline. I start using those lines to check and balance for fit, as we typically have done, you know, in the last hundreds of years, to balance and check for the actual fit of the garment, and we can do that in 3D. Next slide. And then I actually began to place more lines for myself. It really comes down to the pattern drafter or the design team. But generally speaking, as you can see, I've added more lines to the sleeve cap in its development, because I want to check and see if it actually aligns with very specific landmarks on the block. And by doing that, I'm actually going to get a better shape and fit for the arm's eye. Now, the arm's eye is still a very big challenge in 3D because 3D modeling, both in scanning and in program forms, typically does not have the correct deformation. And deformation can occur either by what type of animation you have applied to the figure, or how the body scan was captured. So it's very important to really understand what you're working with in terms of the arm's eye. But by doing this, it also ensures that I have proper sleeve balance. So I'm not going to get torque or push on the fabric against the body, front or back of the arm. Lucy, next slide. Now, once I've moved through that block, I can decide, yes, this is approved. All of those lines match up with my actual landmarks based on the flat pattern draft that I've done, in which case then I can move on to the design. So this one is done for the standard fit, and the next one I did was for the sway back. So next slide, Lucy. The sway back, as you can see, has a different tilt on the body, especially with regard to the hem. Now, that can be obviously adjusted when you start moving into the actual style of the garment. But you can see that there's a cleaner fit at the collar. It does need a little pinch and adjust at the collar just to bring it in a little bit, but it fits right where it should at the clavicle. The arm's eye lines up, the side seam balance lines line up across the balance of the body. And then we, of course, have no tugging or pulling on the front or back balance of the body. So next slide, Lucy. Now, I want to show you the comparison of those two blocks side by side. Again, 44 regular body, but because of the posture, that stature and stance, you're gonna see a change in the length of that pattern front to back. So on the sway back, we had an extended high point shoulder to waist, which was 51.89 centimeters. Then on the regular, it was 47.71, which is a difference of 4.18 centimeters. That's quite a difference when it comes to fit. So if I have a customer trying on the garment that was made for the sway back, but they're a regular body, it's not going to fit them the way it should. And really, this also impacts not just the high point shoulder, but it impacts where the center front collar sits. It impacts the shoulder balance, and then moves all the way down through the body of the garment. As you can see, the waistline sits lower, the chest line balances, right? The across chest balances, but that waistline does pull longer. And then also the arm's eye sits lower, which creates a different sleeve structure in itself. So really accessing the block is very important. Also, keeping those balance and measure lines throughout your development process is going to make sure that that fit stays true to the body that you're working with. If those lines are not being utilized, you generally tend to find that the fit starts to get lost, and the directive of the technical design team also becomes lost. So I always require these in my process to make sure that we really are gaining momentum on what needs to be adjusted through the fit process. We can problem solve and troubleshoot a lot faster. And again, go back in and see if the problem was our block, or the problem was the body scan, or the problem was the posture was corrected somewhere along the lines of development. So it's really important to understand all those variables. Next slide, Lucy. And just for funsies, I basically took the sway back and put it onto the regular posture gentleman just to show that impact of fit. And as you can see, this is the one in the white is the correct fit for that person. And then we put the sway back on in the beige color, and we begin to see pulling of the fabric towards the back of the body. And that's because the length of the shoulder pitch is sitting back on the person, because the length of that high point shoulder to waist in the front was longer by 4+ centimeters. And then it will also cause that tilt to occur on the hemline for the person, as well as impacting the armscye in the back portion of the body, which will push fabric forward on the front of the shoulder. Next slide, Lucy. And as you can see, this is kind of a trickle-down effect of fit. So the center front collar actually moves up on the person, while the back of the collar moves lower, which on a jacket block I would not want. Then the sleeve becomes impacted because the shape of the sleeve against the person's actual pitch of the shoulder, because posture is also pitch of shoulder, changes. And then of course we get the bagging out in the back of the body. And so overall, I wanted to also do pants, but I didn't have time to kind of add that in. But really, if the posture of your form, if you're using a stock form from a apparel design platform, it has a auto-generated rigged posture, which does not match your consumer's posture. So part of your fit will be evaluating the posture of the consumer in not in an A pose, but in a natural stance, because you're getting natural posture from the person, in which case it will affect your pelvic tilt. As we age, we can see women get a forward pelvic tilt in their body, and the buttocks loses some mass as a result of the forward momentum of that pelvic tilt. So overall, your posture, stature, and stance will impact your block outcomes and your fit outcomes in relation to the shape of the body. And that's what I have presented for today. So thank you, and let's move on to the next speaker.